Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. You know me, James Bell with ERA Four Feathers Realty. And today we're going to be diving into a topic that can seem a bit tricky, but it's really important for both buyers and real estate agents. And that is the buyer-broker exclusive employment agreement. And if you're looking to buy a home in Arizona, you might have heard of this form. But what exactly is it and why you should care? Well, stick around because I'm going to break it all down for you. So first things first, let's talk about what this form actually is. The buyer-broker exclusive agreement is a contract between a home buyer and a real estate agent. When you sign this, you are agreeing to work exclusively with that agent during your home search and the home buying process. This means that in return for all their services, the agent's going to help you find the best deal, and you're not going to be working with any other agents at that time. So now this form might look a bit intimidating at first, but don't worry. Let me walk you through this and make some key points, and this will be easy enough to understand. So first up are lines 1 through 3. Now this is who's going to be involved in the contract: the buyer, the brokerage, and the agent. Okay, pretty easy. Line 4 through 6 outlines that this agreement is between the buyer and the broker in exchange for the brokerage to locate, negotiate, and facilitate the purchase of a property. The buyer gives us, the brokerage, and the agent who represents the brokerage, the irrevocable right to represent the buyer in the purchase of that property during that time. Now, lines 7 or 8 are really important to buyers to pay attention to. It spells out that if you sign more than one of these agreements with multiple agents, you could be on the hook for compensation to them all, and no one needs that. So next will be the duration of this agreement. Now, this will specify how long the agent will represent you exclusively. Now, typically, this is about 6 months, but it's any time you and your agent want to agree to. It can be 9 months, it can be up to a year. And if you're not satisfied, the agreement can be terminated with proper notice, but the brokerage has to agree. Okay. Now, lines 11 through 16 lays out what you're looking for in an employment with you as a buyer: residential land, commercial, or other, as well as what the agents will do on your behalf. Okay. So 17 through 19 is going to be the type of agency relationship you have as a buyer with your agent. Now, this has all been explained in depth in my other video, Agency Election and Disclosure Form. So go ahead and check that out if you haven't already. But this section talks all about agency and what to expect. So moving on, lines 20 through 23 is another really important part to pay attention to as a buyer. And the bottom line up front: do not go into any property for a first time visit without your agent. If you do, these lines explain that the seller or other agent, brokerage, can refuse to compensate your broker, meaning that if you had a chance for them to provide the seller compensation to offset what you've agreed to pay your agent, that's solely on you. So don't go places without your agent, at least the first time, and let them make the proper introductions. So lines 24, the buyer, it states that you agree to review the Arizona Department of Real Estate Buyer Advisory. And this is a document that I would give you as your agent to read over. I'll keep a signed copy in your file as part of your records. There's a lot of information in it. It's a big document. You really want to go through it to watch out, to know what to watch out for. And now for the part that most buyers are most curious and want to know: compensation. So lines 25 and 26 spell out in bold and all caps that compensation is always negotiable, not set in stone by any board, MLS, National Association, anything like that. It is a conversation and a negotiation between you, the buyer, and the brokerage, the agent. I will point out that any agent can say, this is what I work for. I work for minimum X percent. And this is still negotiating because you can always counter higher. So, and if it's not for you, that's okay. But it's always a negotiation. Okay. Lines 28. Let's scroll down on this first so you guys can see what I'm talking about. Okay. Lines 28 are, let's go back one. Lines 27 is just going to be your initials. Lines 28, okay, that's going to be a retainer fee if applicable. We don't really use that here, so I'm just going to kind of skip over it. But a retainer fee, um, if that brokerage chooses to use that, you guys know what that is. So then lines 31 through 36, that's going to be explained to you that as a buyer, when you close escrow, you owe a compensation to that buyer broker. And this form explains how that agent gets paid. Now, historically, the seller will pay the home buyer's portion to their brokerage, either a portion or all, but that's kind of been the practice historically. But ultimately, you are responsible for the agent's commission. They help you find a home. No one works for free. So this is something that's very important to discuss with your agent upfront so there's no surprises down the line. Okay, lines 34 is the percent of the sales that I will receive. And it can either be a percent or a flat rate. Typically, it's a percentage. Line 35 is typically something we see more in vacant land, such as the flat fee, because vacant land's a little, it's just not the same thing as a resident. Line 36, you will rarely ever use in your career, but if you get creative enough and your broker allows it, go nuts. So, all right, let's move on to the next page. Starting at line 37. Okay. So, lines 37 up at the top states that this has to be in U.S. currency and it needs to be paid at the close of escrow, unless otherwise agreed in writing. Okay. So, people can get creative. All right. Numbers 39 through 46 are something I've kind of touched a little bit on already. The seller can offer compensation to a buyer's broker, but you are ultimately responsible if they do not or don't offer enough to cover what you have agreed to with your buyer's broker. So, an example, let's say you agree to compensate, let's say 10% for some reason, and the seller's only offering 3, you would be responsible for the remainder 7. Okay, that's just an example. Okay. Lines 47 and 48 is the Veteran Affairs Notice, and I believe this has been temporarily waived by the VA so veterans can pay this. This, again, um, it's just a notice for VA regulation. Okay. Lines 49 through 52, failure to complete. If I find you a home and we proceed to go into the contract with them, and if you back out for a non-allowed reason, like let's say it's the day of closing and you decide, you know what, not for me, well, you're still going to owe a compensation for that. And if it's not a breach of contract, let's say, you're not near inspection period and someone found an item and you go, this isn't for me, that's okay. And you won't, that's okay to back out. But if it's not in this time frame, you're not going to get your earnest money back. And you need to basically, if there's no legitimate reason, don't back out. If you find a house and you say you like it and you sign it and you make an offer and everything's good and we're sitting at closing, I mean, do what you want, but ultimately it'll be less painful for you financially if you just go ahead with what you agree to. Okay. Lines 53 through 57 states that for a certain period of time, after this contract expires and you make an offer on a house that I showed you, so let's say we're looking at a house and you're like, oh, this is the one, but then you decide to just wait me out so you don't have to pay a compensation or something like that. Well, this is what this portion's for. So if I show you a house while you're under this employment agreement, and then 20 days afterwards you go buy that home, make an offer, you're still going to owe me compensation. So the time period that I like to use is about 90 days. So when you're in this window, and I've shown you homes, and all of those introductions have been made on my behalf for you, that's when that would kick in, within that 90-day window after the contract. Okay. So lines 58 and 61 say that I will show you properties regardless if they're offering buyer broker compensation, unless it's in writing that you don't want me to. So now that's saying if the other side of the transaction, the seller isn't offering compensation, you can in writing say, I don't want to deal with them if they're not offering. I don't want to pay anything. I want it to all be on this. And that, that's your prerogative. So you can mark whatever you want, but it needs to be in writing. Okay. Where in the form? Okay. Going into. All right. For 64 through 67 is fair housing. And that is, I'm going to show homes to everyone. You can't ask me to violate fair housing. That's a whole animal, and I can make a video about that. But basically, I need to show homes to everyone. There's protected classes of citizens, of persons, and you can't ask me to violate federal law to exclude those persons from uh, this transaction. So moving on, 68 through 69 says that if you understand that you're not my only client, and I'm going to show the same homes to other buying clients that are looking for similar properties. And that's pretty understandable, right? Like if I have three buyers and they all kind of have similar price points and looking for similar things, I can show them the same houses. It's that showing isn't limited to just you. Other people need an opportunity to find their home as well, and so we're going to make that happen. So that's just up front. We're going to show multiple homes to multiple people. Okay. Let me scroll down one more time. Make sure everyone can see this. Okay. So lines 70 through 75. This is going to be the legal release of liability, and it's going to indemnify the brokerage from any issues arising from third parties. For example, if you ask me to name a home inspector and that home inspector does anything, we are not the responsible party. You asked me for a home inspector. I said, here's some of the inspectors in the area. That's a conversation between you and them. Okay. Line 76 is just going to be your buyer's initials that you understand that part above. Line 77 through 80 is any additional terms and conditions. You're going to put that in there. And there is another form, addendums. I'll cover that another day. All right. Lines 81 through 94. Just bringing that up 1 minute. Okay, 81 through 94 covers how we're going to handle problems if there is an issue, a big issue. And it says you will agree to go to mediation if there's an issue. If the mediation cannot resolve it, we'll go to an arbitrator. Now, the arbitration is final and binding, and the judgment awarded and rendered by the arbitrator may be entered into a court of competent jurisdiction. Now, you can opt out of the arbitration 30 days after mediation and have the right to resort to court action. That shouldn't happen. That's really rare. If there's an issue, you're basically agreeing to say, like, we're going to solve this and we're going to sit down and agree to fix it. So, and that's understandable. You want the ability to fix any big issues, but most of the time it's just a conversation with your broker and it's fine. But if it needs to get escalated and there needs to be someone, that's what that section's for. Okay. 95 is just going to be the buyer's initials to ensure that you understand everything that was above in paragraphs 81 through 94. Next two lines, 96 and 97, explain that if the situation does go to arbitration or courts, the prevailing party will have their costs covered by the other party. That's standard in any case. So, line 98, and it shows that this agreement is governed by Arizona law and the jurisdiction exclusively within Arizona. Okay, lines 99 through 100 simply says that we can use electronic forms or fax to sign forms, and they're real and they're going to be treated like an original, ink signed document, right? Electronic email, and that's very common today. That's not an issue, and that basically allows us to do that. Okay, lines 101 through 104. it says that this document, including any addendums or attachments, constitute the entire agreement, and they're going to override any oral agreements. Any modifications made in writing that are signed are valid, and any part that is invalid or unenforceable, the rest of that contract shall not affect the other parts. So, like, please read everything before signing. If you have questions, ask them, and everything will be fine. And then for this last part, let me just scroll to the bottom so everyone can see. There we go. We'll just leave it like that. Bring up the window here. Okay. Now then, moving on, 105 and 106 are going to cover capacity, and that means that the buyer has the legal capacity, full power, and authority to enter into this agreement and consummate the agreement. They can't be a minor. They can't be mentally impaired to the point that they're not allowed. They legally do not have capacity to enter an agreement. So that's what that's saying is they're mentally competent. They're ready. They're allowed to, and that just covers that basis. Okay, line 107 is the acceptance that the buyer agrees to all terms and conditions herein and acknowledges receipt of this copy. Okay, lines 108 through 114 is going to be the signature blocks. So that was basically it. But it's important to note that this exclusive employment agreement doesn't mean you're stuck, because I did mention it's irrevocable. That's kind of on our part. But if at any point you feel that this agreement isn't meeting your needs, or you find yourself looking at different properties for different properties, and it's not getting along, you can discuss terminating or modifying this agreement. However, these contracts are bilateral, so if you want to cancel, both you and the broker have to agree in writing, and that's going to be on a form called a Buyer-Tenant Employment Agreement Addendum. It's a long one. So make sure you're comfortable with the agreement before you sign. So if you're good, sign and move forward. Now, again, before you sign anything, make sure that you're clear on the terms. Ask your agent any questions you might have. It's also a good idea to discuss the specific responsibilities of your agent in this. Just make sure you're clear. Okay. So to recap, the buyer-broker exclusive employment agreement is a contract that creates a partnership between you and your real estate agent. It ensures that you have someone dedicated to finding you the best home while also protecting both parties. It is a great tool to help streamline your home buying process and ensure that you are represented properly. Okay, so if you have any questions about the buyer-broker exclusive agreement, or if you want help navigating the home buying process, please feel free to reach out. I'm here to guide you through every step of the way. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you can stay updated. Thank you so much. See you next time.